Hello and welcome to this Python activity, Wrestling with Functions. This activity asks you to check the provided starter code and CSV to find the columns you would need to complete this activity. Using the starter code, you will define a function called print_percentages, which takes a single argument, wrestler data. The function will then take the provided wrestler data and calculate the win percent, the loss percent, and the draw percent over the course of a year. We will then print out the statistics to the terminal. As a bonus, we will print if the wrestler is either a jobber or a superstar. A jobber will be a wrestler that has lost over 50% of their matches. A superstar will be the opposite, meaning they have not lost over 50% of their matches. Let's first take a look at our wrestler data. Here we can see we have 4 columns. Wrestler, which contains the wrestler name. Wins, which is the number of winning matches a wrestler had that year. Losses, which is the number of losing matches a wrestler had that year. And finally, draws, which is the number of draws a wrestler had that year. Now let's look at our starter code. We can see we have some pseudocode laid out for us, as well as the code that reads and loops through the CSV, and our libraries are already imported for us at the top. The function we need to define is also being called on line 32. The first step is to set up the path to our CSV file. In our case, the CSV is up one folder in a folder called Resources with a file name of wwe-data-2016.csv. We then set this path to a variable called wrestling_CSV, which is then used at the bottom of our code to open and read the given CSV file. The next step is to define the function. We do this with the def keyword. This lets the interpreter know that we are about to define a function. We know we want to call our function print_percentages based on the instructions, as well as the fact that it is the function called at the bottom of the code. We also know that our function will take a single argument, which, in the scope of the function, will be called wrestler_data. We can see that the argument given when the function is called is row, which provides the function with a row of data from our CSV that includes the wrestler's statistics. These statistics are needed for the next step to calculate the win, loss, and draw percentages. Before we calculate the percentages, it may be useful to create variables for each of the columns. This will give us much better readability than wrestler_data at element 0 does. We will also cast the data as the correct type. The wrestler name will be a string, while the rest of the data will be integers. We can now use those more readable variables to do our calculations. First, we will calculate the total number of matches a wrestler has been a part of in 2016. We do this by simply adding up the number of wins, losses, and draws. This will be our total matches variable. Using our total matches variable, we can now calculate the win, loss, and draw percentages. For wins, we will take the number of wins over the total matches to get the percentage of wins. We will then multiply by 100 to get a whole number. For losses, we will take the number of losses over the number of total matches and again multiply by 100. Finally, we do the same to get the draw percentage. Now that we have all the statistics we need, we can print out the result to the user. We will use the print function to first tell which wrestler the stats are for. Notice we use the F in front of the opening quotes to let the interpreter know that we intend to format the string with a variable. In this case, we print out the name variable. In order to work, the variable must be inside curly braces as well as having the F in front of the opening quotes. After the name is printed, we then need to print out the wrestler's statistics. We will start with the win percentage. Again, use the F before our quotes and curly braces around our variable to print out the value of the variable. This time, however, there is an extra step. We need to cast the variable as a string in order for it to be printed. Remember that earlier we casted the numerical columns as an integer. This is because we needed it as an integer in order to do some calculations with it. Now that we are finished with the calculations, we need to cast it back as a string in order to print it to the terminal. We repeat this process for the loss and draw percentages. Once done, we have completed the required part of the activity. For the bonus, we need to determine what type of wrestler the function was given. The wrestler can be either a jobber or a superstar. We determine this by creating an if statement. If the wrestler's loss percentage is over 50, they are a jobber. Else, they are a superstar. We then set a variable called type underscore of underscore wrestler, where we will save a string type value of jobber or superstar. Finally, we will add this to our printouts saying what type of wrestler we have. That completes the bonus code. Let's see our code in action. We cd to our script folder and run Python in the name of our script, which here is wrestling underscore functions.py. We will then be prompted for the wrestler we wish to search for. I'm going to search for Apollo Crews. There are his stats, and we can see that he is a superstar. Now let's try for a jobber. We will run the script again, this time searching for Kevin Owens. And there we see his stats and that he is in fact a jobber. Great work! That concludes this video on the Python activity, Wrestling with Functions. Thank you for watching.